Live with local comforts. Love community over commuting. Live in a home built by Glenveagh. Love where you live. Glenveagh, home of the new.
Welcome to Through the Front Door, brought to you by Glenveagh Homes. On this podcast, we'll be consulting a wide range of experts, from mortgage brokers and architects to interior designers and sustainability experts, who will be addressing those burning questions you've always wanted to know the answer to. This week, I'm joined by Head of Sustainability at Glenveagh Homes, Lorraine Fitzgerald.
Energy efficiency regulation has moved on considerably in the last number of years. And as I said, we're trying to go beyond that. So I suppose last year, 82% of our homes were A2 rated, which is the second highest rating. We're targeting 50% being A1 rated for 2022. And so they are really, really efficient homes. And, we're building in energy efficiency as a core part of it. So things like, they're really, really highly insulated.
From their experience to mine, we'll be sure to cover all the bases to put you, the listener, on your way to finding your perfect home. Lorraine, how are you?
I'm good, Elizabeth, thank you.
Very glad to have you on. And listen, first of all, your role fascinates me because number one, I didn't know that a job like the head of sustainability existed. And you're the first person who is the head of sustainability in any firm that I've come across. Can you just tell me a bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I think these roles have just, ballooned in the last year or two, because so many companies are focusing on sustainability. So I'm head of sustainability here at Glenveagh. I've been here just over 6 months. It's a new role here as well. And I suppose it was a recognition from Glenveagh for the importance of sustainability for a company like ourselves. So my job really is to, lead the company in terms of sustainability and developing the sustainability strategy, and I suppose most importantly in embedding it in the business. So working with colleagues right across the business to embed all aspects of sustainability into the everyday business of Glenveagh. And I suppose that includes environmental sustainability, like things like net zero and carbon emissions and biodiversity. But it also includes, the more social side of sustainability. So working with colleagues on inclusion and diversity, on community engagement with our suppliers. So really, really interesting role, really broad role.
Very diverse.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, my own background is in environmental science, but obviously it's kind of much broader than that now.
Well, I was actually going to ask you where were the beginnings of getting to the role that you actually have now? So I was going to say, if somebody wants to be a sustainability expert, what actually do they do? Why not? While we've touched on it, I was actually going to ask you that at the end, but now that we've touched on it, environmental sciences.
Yeah, like I did environmental science many, many moons ago. And I suppose been waiting for this time when, sustainability and environmental issues have really come to the fore. And I suppose back then, there were only a few courses in relation to environmental science. But I think now there's lots of different courses in the universities. So, at an undergraduate level, there's environmental science, there's, sustainability, there's all sorts of various different options. But I suppose more and more what we're seeing actually is people that are within business really becoming interested in it. And I suppose there's lots of other roles that, are maybe more part-time or more focused for people who are in business, at a master's or a diploma level, to actually get into sustainability and to incorporate it into what they're doing, as opposed to, a sustainability person coming in. So there's so many options, there's so many opportunities. I've had, people that I've worked with that talk to me because their children are doing their Leaving Cert and they're really interested in it. Absolutely. And I suppose we're seeing now that sustainability is going to be part of this.
As long as it's the kids who are interested in it and not just the parents trying to shove the kids into it, albeit not a bad idea.
But I think the younger generation are demonstrating their interest in sustainability and climate change and all of that, and then bringing it into their career choices as well, which is great to see.
It's pretty phenomenal, and it's certainly the way to go and the way of the future. Along with health sciences in terms of pandemics, etc. It's all about the sciences right now. But look, I think we all sort of have this idea that we're sustainable individuals, that we make an effort, that we do our best, whether that to us means recycling, in a very small way at home, or what is it that all the kids are doing now? It's slow clothing, I think is what it's called. They're all buying secondhand clothing, and nobody's buying fast clothes anymore. Well, actually they are, but I know from my own daughter, who's a university goer, that buying new clothes is just shocking altogether. But in terms of the built world now and architecture going forward, and there's lots of legislation and regulation around sustainability now. Why is it so important when we're considering buying a home now, if we really want to future-proof ourselves in terms of sustainability and to be seen to be sustainable? What would you tell people to do in terms of purchasing?
It's probably the biggest, single decision or investment that people make. And I suppose people, as you say now, are a lot more conscious about their impact on the environment and trying to reduce that. So it's a good opportunity to think about, when you're making that big decision, well, can I make a decision that actually will reduce that impact? And, homes, the operation of homes and the building of homes has an impact on the environment. So I suppose let's think about what is the best, approach in terms of this. And I suppose it's also in relation to the cost. We're seeing the rising costs of fuel. We know that there are, increasing costs in terms of carbon taxes and things like that. So, people need to, I suppose, consider the lifetime costs rather than just the top line costs of a house. So, when you're thinking about purchasing your house, one house may be cheaper than the other, but let's look out a little bit. Let's see.
It's a very good way of putting it, the lifetime cost. Yeah.
What is that cost of your energy over the next while going to be, incorporating in rising costs and the carbon tax, as I said, but compared to maybe a newer house with that has a really good BER rating and is built to really high standards. And, we know that there's going to be a big program around retrofitting as well to upgrade houses. So building that into your consideration as well. And something else I suppose I tell people to consider is, the cost of your mortgage. So we're seeing all the major banks now have green mortgages. And that means that you get a reduction in terms of your interest rate on a really efficient, energy efficient house. So thinking about that as well.
Now, you're not going to believe this. I deal with mortgage brokers every day of the week, and I've never heard of a green mortgage. Isn't that astonishing?
Yeah, because it's to be honest, it's actually probably the cheapest mortgage you can get at the moment. And pretty much all the major banks across the board are offering those green mortgages now on, generally from a BER 3 rating upwards. And it means that, if you have that energy efficient house, you can actually get your mortgage at a cheaper rate. So, thinking about that as well is really important, that it's not just, one house it costs X and the other costs Y. It's, digging a little bit deeper into the numbers, because, that's really important, as well as that, your own values around what kind of a house do I want to have, where is it situated, is there access to public transport, is there access to, an electric vehicle charging point, those kind of things, so it's a big decision, and, lots of things can be built into it.
Speaking of the electric vehicle charging points, is that something that's included in Glenveagh Homes or new homes in general now?
Yeah, so we're wiring our homes now so that, the installation of an EV charger is kind of really easy. So if somebody decides to do that, the wiring is already in place, for you to go. So it's a much easier and quicker kind of decision. And that's happening across, lots of new homes. But that's certainly a feature for us that we felt was important, because we're seeing, the push in terms of electric vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely. And is it part of the regulation? I mean, or is this something that you guys have chosen to do?
It's something that we're doing at the moment. It probably will be something that'll be part of regulation in the future. I imagine it's not currently, but it's something that we've decided to do at the moment. And we're always taking I suppose, the pulse of customers, potential customers as well, in terms of what they're looking for. And certainly sustainability is one of their priorities now. So we need to respond to that as well, and include those things, as well as the regulatory requirements.
For my own curiosity now, are Glenveagh homes predominantly, are they timber frame homes or block built homes now?
We've got a mix of both, but the majority will be timber framed homes now. So we have a factory where we do a lot of offsite manufacturing. We've just invested in another one, so we're seeing
are these
that
Irish in Ireland or elsewhere?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Oh God, that's fantastic.
Yeah, in Ireland. Yeah. So we're seeing that, and certainly they're more efficient to build. There's less time on site, and they're also lower in terms of the embodied carbon or the carbon emissions, which is something that we're starting to measure now as well. So yeah, so that's we're always, I suppose, trying to innovate and to understand how can we be more efficient in terms of cost, but also now more and more in terms of carbon. How can we cut that down? So these are kind of the considerations that lots of companies are taking now. How can we reduce those those scope 3, those emissions that are the indirect emissions associated with the business.
Just speaking about the long-term cost the long-term costs of your home, which I think is a really brilliant point. Put your mortgage aside and then attempt to calculate your heating costs. I spoke to a lovely couple who had bought a Glenveagh home up in Balbriggan in Castleland Park, and one of the questions I asked them was, I said, "Well, lads, have you put on the heating yet?" And they kind of looked at each other and went, "Actually, no, we haven't. Not really. They're toasty warm and airtight, and absolutely delighted with that. And I wish to God I was in the same position, but I'm not. I'm not even in an old home. I'm in a 25-year-old home, but I do put the heating on a lot in the winter because I insist on being comfortable. But I also think that that's part of city living. And correct me if I'm wrong. When I think about all these lovely new airtight, A-rated homes being built, they're really outside the perimeter of the capital at the moment and our major cities. Would I be right in saying that? If I want to buy an A-rated brand new home in the city, it would be, number one, excruciatingly expensive just by virtue of the fact of the location, and number two, it's not available.
It's no shock, I suppose, that supply is an issue at the moment right throughout the country. So I mean, a lot of our developments are right across the eastern part of the country, predominantly some in Cork as well. So a lot of our housing would be, I suppose, outside the city centre, but we are involved in some apartments as well, which would be city centre. And I suppose no matter where the development is, we are going beyond what's required in terms of regulation, in terms of that energy efficiency. And I suppose, you're talking about a 25-year-old house, which is not that old, but, energy efficiency regulation has moved on considerably in the last number of years. And as I said, we're trying to go beyond that. So I suppose last year, 82% of our homes were A2 rated, which is the second highest rating. We're targeting 50% being A1 rated for 2022.
Amazing.
And so they are really, really efficient homes. And, we're building in energy efficiency as a core part of it. So things like, they're really, really highly insulated. So, talking to that couple, people don't need the heating like you do in another home because they're so toasty warm. They're so well insulated that it retains that heat. And that's not just a cost thing, but it's also a comfort, thing that you don't have to. You have a lovely toasty warm home, and
it's comfortable and luxurious, and something that's not in the back of your mind. God, I'm putting on the heating, I'm putting on the gas again, I'm putting on the oil again.
And when you think of people working from home a lot more now than they were in terms of that hybrid situation, that's also really important that they got a comfortable workspace there as well. But also, our heating is heat pumps as well, which is more more efficient and cost effective than your conventional systems to run. And also we're giving really good guidance to people as well around using those systems, because they are quite different to the conventional systems. So that's really important as well, that we're building in that kind of guidance to our homeowners guides. The lighting is obviously really efficient, things like LED lighting and all of that. And as I said, they're pre-wired for EVs as well. So I suppose what we're trying to do in our homes is make them really, really energy efficient, so that it's the lowest cost for our customers, and they're comfortable and warm and all of that. And it sounds like from the couple you've talked to that it's working anyway at the moment.
Well, it's no, it absolutely it is, and I have to say, I mean, like, I'm a tad envious. I'm not quite a downsizer just yet, but absolutely, when I am, I'll be thinking, oh no, I want to jump into an A-rated apartment and just be very, very cozy. But it's interesting. I bought another Glenveagh home recently for clients of mine, actually probably in the first phase of Castleland Park in Balbriggan, for a Canadian couple, right? Okay. And who are relocating here. And I've two Canadian. I have a second Canadian client on my books as well. I mean, like, coming from Canada, come on, like, it's -40 in the winter and +40 in the summer. So, like, they know all about extremes, and airtight is just so important to them. But the home that I bought this particular couple, because they wanted a secondhand home, actually couldn't buy a new home just by virtue of the fact that you guys are sold out as well, and everything's been slowed down with the pandemic and COVID in the last couple of years, is actually, I think it's actually a B3. So when you say to me, we've come from B3, we're now at A3, we're aiming for A1, like, the progress is astonishing, and it's so swift. And actually, we mentioned to Laura and Jason yesterday, I said, what sort of a heating system do you guys have? Have you air to water? They said, actually, we just missed air to water. That was the next phase.
Yeah, and that's standard now across all our homes, the air to water heat pumps, because, like, this is the way it's going. I mean, I suppose in the last 2 to 3 years, I think we've seen just such a huge emphasis on sustainability from an EU level, at a global level, at an Irish level. And I suppose the fear was, I think, when the pandemic hit, is climate change going to take a back step? Is sustainability, going to be kind of parked for the moment while we deal with the pandemic? But actually, the reverse of that happened.
Rocked forward.
It's rocked forward, and there's huge amount of work being put on it. I mean, if you just look, I think, at the number of jobs that have been advertised in the sustainability world, it's phenomenal compared to what it was 3 years ago. So, this has evolved now, I think, in the last years at such a pace. And I think it's going to be really exciting in terms of the innovation that's going to be in this space, in terms of reducing carbon emissions, the emissions that are associated with the materials that go into the house, and all of that. I think it's quite exciting to be in the sustainability kind of space at the moment, because that innovation is going to come through, and it's just quite an exciting phase for me anyway.
Can I ask you something in terms of the excitement and the fact that it's so futuristic and it's moving at such a pace? And I can tell by the energy in your voice that you find it very exciting and you're very passionate about it. How do you actually go about sourcing whatever it is that you need to not retrofit, but to fit out your homes to this exacting A1 sustainable standard? Like, are there other sustainability shows that you go to, for example?
No, I suppose, we have a really close connection with our suppliers, and we work very closely with our suppliers. And I think because, this is evolving so fast, suppliers are evolving as well. They're, developing new and innovative things. And, it's all about that, I suppose, stakeholder engagement with whoever it is, the suppliers and so on. And, working with them to come up with a solution, and understanding what we need. And by them working so closely with us, they know what we need. But being open to that, innovation that might come through those supply chains as well is really important. And I think that's going to be really important going forward as well, because we're going to be looking at how do we reduce that embodied carbon, as I said, and that's going to be really like down to our engagement with suppliers and seeing like what innovations are they coming up with, and can we take advantages of those, and are there partnerships that we can work on together with suppliers or with others? Are there partnerships at industry level? I mean, we joined, for instance, the Irish Green Building Council recently, and they're to the fore in terms of doing kind of research and that around green buildings. And so it's really important, like, sustainability can be competitive in some aspects, but actually it's beyond that. It's around collaboration, and it's around sharing ideas.
Everybody has to be on the same page. Yeah,
they do. Yeah, because nobody is going to solve this on their own. That's one of the kind of my main mantras, I suppose, is sustainability is all about collaboration, and it's all about that sharing of ideas and people coming up with things. If we're going to, I suppose, solve this problem together, we have to work together.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant ethos. I absolutely love that. There's nobody's hiding or keeping secrets from anybody, and I can see very clearly that it's hugely important to collaborate.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Now, tell me this. You obviously love your job. I can tell you love your job, because you could go on and on and on, I'd say, for the next another half an hour if you were given the chance. What would you say to, as you said, parents talking to you now, leaving cert parents, like, what would you say about a career in sustainability? I mean, apart from a company like Glenveagh, who are clearly flying the sustainable flag, what other areas are there for young people to go into?
Oh, there's lots, I mean, sustainability is just coming into so many different things. So, I mean, obviously, there's the kind of the sciencey element of it, and the climate change. But I think things like engineering, architecture, all of those are incorporating sustainability into it. More and more, I think you'll see finance incorporating sustainability into it. So, the whole idea of reporting, performance and all of that for investors, it's becoming really, really important for investors. So, I talk to investors as well as our finance people talking to investors. And I work very closely with our finance people. And I suppose, building it into accountancy and all of that, you can see that coming through now. Building it into business as well. So you see a lot of the business courses also incorporating sustainability into it. I think, the area of food and agriculture is going to be really big in the sustainability world as well. So, as I said before, it's not necessarily just about a specific career in, sustainability. It's about, even if somebody has an interest in business or something like that, there might be a particular business course that has a leaning towards sustainability. So it's just so broad at the moment. It's really exciting. Supply chain and procurement are another area. How do you ensure that your supply chain is sustainable and that you're getting as much out of it as possible? So it's just endless.
It is
Data
endless,
is another big thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely endless in a very brilliant way. In a brilliant way.
Absolutely.
In a brilliant way.
Yeah.
It's endless.
So there's lots of opportunities out there for young people and not so young people who are interested in a career in this area.
Oh God, I'll tell you, there's nothing to stop anybody from changing, doing a quick pivot and doing something entirely different. Absolutely, why not?
Yeah, for sure.
Lorraine, I really enjoyed chatting to you. Thank you very much indeed. And you're rocking it down the sustainability route. I look forward to hearing lots more about lots more progress, because I'll tell you, it's not for stopping, that's for sure. It's absolutely vital and critical in our new homes world.
Thanks very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
Live with local comforts. Love community over commuting. Live in a home built by Glenveagh. Love where you live. Glenveagh, home of the new.